Well, it's a bit like binge watching on Netflix. We've had so many exciting panels, and I'm thinking about the wonderful session that I hosted yesterday at day one of the Centre Court Masters Festival, talking about some of the career outcomes and just the personal successes that the graduates of these wonderful specialized masters programs are enjoying. So, given those outcomes, of course, now we need to think about how we get into some of these fantastic programs. And it's only natural to then bring you the gatekeepers of these schools. I'm delighted to be joined by Liana Cortez. Liana is the Associate Director of Admissions for the Masters in Financial Engineering and Quant Finance at UCLA Anderson. We expect you to use words like algorithms, given the discussion that we had yesterday, Liana. Brock Schroeder is joining us from Case Western. She's the Director of Admissions for Finance, the Masters in Business Analytics, and that FinTech program that we were discussing yesterday. So everything about blockchain. Tracy Hess, the Associate Dean at Isenberg at UMASS, heading up the Finance, Accounting, and the Masters in Business Analytics programs. Also joined by Nicole Lamberti, the Associate Director of Academic Affairs from UCLA and their Econ, the Quantitative Economics program. And then Rebecca Watts. Rebecca is the Director of Graduate Admissions at Baruch and Zicklin. So I think I have everybody. Thank you all for joining us, because of course it's another very busy year. The demand for your programs is so strong. Perhaps Liana, we'll work from west to east coast and just start a little bit about quant finance and financial engineering, very specific, but clearly very successful in terms of the career paths it's leading to. So tell us a little bit about the program and what it covers.
Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you for joining us. And our program at UCLA Anderson started in 2009. We graduated our first class. And now I'm happy to say we have over 600 alumni. So we have a very deep well to draw from. Financial engineering falls under the umbrella of mathematical finance, quantitative finance, computational finance. That's a good way to think about financial engineering for those who have never heard that phrase. We have a 15-month specialized curriculum that combines math, programming, and finance. And our students take courses in investments, stochastic calculus. That's where they get really scared, but econometrics, computational methods in finance, derivatives markets, fixed income. And this year we're actually offering a new core course called Trading Market Frictions in FinTech. So we're very excited about that. Just to name a few of our core courses. And then our curriculum also includes electives and a capstone applied finance project that provides our MFE students a chance to work in a team with a high growth company, solving practical real world financial engineering problems. Corporate sponsors have been like PIMCO, KPMG, Citibank, PwC, Accenture, just to name a few.
So Liana, thanks for getting us started. Of course, my head spins thinking about personal finance, let alone sort of quantitative finance. But just, I suppose, just in a word, it's that sort of deeper dive of specialization beyond the broader sort of areas of finance that clearly resonates with PIMCO, KPMG, and others.
Exactly. Yes, definitely doing a much deeper dive than you would if you were, say, going for an MBA, which is a much broader degree. The financial engineering curriculum is it does a deep dive, as you said, into quantitative finance. Yes.
Got it. Well, you mentioned FinTech, and Brock, when we had Don on the session yesterday, I said, well, 10 years ago, let alone being able to describe what blockchain really is, we just didn't have a sort of crypto on our radar screen. So, I mean, is FinTech at Case, this sort of example of faculty, the market that says, there is this distinct need for a specialized master's like this?
Yeah, we've been evolving. Our faculty have, obviously been evolving in the curriculum as fintech evolves. And I even hate to say evolve because that's such a long-term process. This is really within years, within just a matter of a few years here. Fintech has so dynamically changed financial services, investment banking, and many other areas or industries. And now even with non-financial services and corporations getting into financial products, Facebook just announcing they're introducing their new wallet. And so you can store your money anywhere and use it anywhere and use it right, from the palm of your hand. And so as our faculty have really incorporated fintech, this last year, they put together a whole new curriculum just for us to be able to introduce this next fall, a Master of Science in FinTech, because we've seen so much of it coming out or being derived from maybe faculty or students of computer science, trying to develop technologies to solve some real world, issues that companies are facing. But it's really now beginning to see that so many of these financial companies or even non-financial companies getting into financial type of services need individuals that have that strong sense of what finance is to be able to utilize more effectively the technology that is rapidly changing all of these different types of services.
Right, and it's great to see such a dynamic response, and in launching a program like this, anticipating an ongoing, continually evolving field, as you suggested. Tracy, I guess with business analytics, we talk about big data, whether it's in healthcare or supply chain or how we behave as consumers. You also offer other MSCs in finance and accounting, but is business analytics very similar in terms of how it reflects the sort of the changing demand of the market?
Oh, absolutely. So we started our MSBA program in 2017, and our focus at the time was to be accessible to individuals of all backgrounds. So to not have a heavy dose of prerequisites for our program. So we have a curriculum that suits those who are just dabbling in analytics and are curious and ready to launch into a career, and those that already have a foundation. And it is a one-year program. It has some foundation work in business, but of course, some wonderful courses, data science, data mining. We can't leave out the foundations of advanced Excel and macro work, along with Python, some marketing applications. We have a great curriculum, and of course, business intelligence and analytics and visualization all wrapped up into one. And what we like to say about our analytics program is you may not walk in with those skills, but you're going to walk out, right, with the ability to really contribute to any organization across industries in the analytics space.
Right, you're making me nervous, Tracy, that there's an even more advanced version of Excel that I'm
But it's interesting. We've found from a lot of our employers and from students really across the country that there's one thing employers want more of. It's advanced Excel, right? It's just a foundation. And what do graduates often wish they had more of? Advanced Excel work. And so we've actually developed courses that provide that to our students from the ground up, more advanced coursework also.
Right, and I suppose that's what's so exciting, making this connection in a one-year program. We know that the market, the recruiters, employers looking for these skills. You don't have to have them when you start, but we'll make sure that you have them
right
when you graduate. Now, Nicole, with quantitative economics, do I need to have an econ background to take that next step, or is it again accessible to a wider audience?
It definitely is accessible. So many of our students do come from an economics background, but we definitely have students coming from other disciplines: math, computer science, engineering, international relations. So we try to make the program as accessible as possible to get that diversity in our students so they can all learn from each other.
Right. And is it in terms of who might sort of then come into the program, and I guess the sort of career focus that they're then thinking about, the transition that they might be looking to make. You know, what does is there a typical profile, or is it such a diverse mix?
It is quite diverse. I mean, how we position our program is it's where economics meets data science and finance. So our curriculum is quite flexible. So we have just 3 core courses that everyone will take. And then beyond that, we give students a lot of flexibility in order for them to curate their own experience. So we have a lot of courses in finance and data analytics, in more economic concepts, so you can decide what you want to study based off of your interest. In terms of their career prospects after, we've had students go into various disciplines and careers like consulting, data analysis, finance, working for NGOs, for government institutions, and economic policy. So no matter what you're interested in, I think you can find your place in our program.
Got it. And you've just built the natural bridge on our panel between Baruch and his finance blockchains, and Tracy and her data mining, between analytics and finance. Rebecca at Zicklin with business analytics. I suppose even as we consider the last 18 months and how people have reflected on the careers they're pursuing, do you see that mix of those, you know, emerging from undergrad, perhaps not entirely sure on the next steps, and how business analytics masters is really going to give that focus, but equally someone 10 years out who says, actually, you know what, it's biz analytics where things that are really exciting and happening, and you know, they would find opportunities in Baruch's program too.
Yeah, so within the business analytics program, we have some different tracks. So it's a very specific, you know, it's really designed to be the bridge between the, you know, decision makers and the data scientists, to be able to kind of put it in their hands. I think a lot of it's about telling a story with data. We've talked a little bit about finance, and so we have a MS in finance and MS in financial risk management program. We have a quantitative methods of modeling, which we also, like Nicole, have a lot of people from economics that are choosing to apply these kind of models in different areas. But the one program that I think is an interesting fit based on your question is our MS in information systems, because there are a lot of electives in it. And those electives really allow for classes in accounting or a lot of finance classes. So a lot of the students that major in accounting or major in finance for undergrad, Baruch is really big for both of those, being in New York City and Manhattan. And so a lot of students will differentiate themselves to employers by really getting in information systems, getting some of these coding skills, and they can actually, our information systems program is CPA track. So they can take so many electives in accounting to go towards it, because that's really the future of accounting. And then same for CFA, some students that majored in finance are able to get a whole different kind of set of skills in maybe a kind of data science program, as long as it allows room for them to take those blockchain and those special topics about the, you know, newest and evolving things going on in finance.
Right. So one master's, but so many different ways to individualize and personalize. Do applicants need to have already sort of thought about how electives they would choose, or that's something that that sort of develops through the program?
No, I usually, though, when people are really unsure about what they want to do, I was actually just talking to somebody on Monday that was thinking about going towards finance or thinking about going towards MS in business analytics. And, you know, information systems is kind of that perfect middle ground, because there's enough flexibility in the program if you're not sure. I would say if you want to work in finance and you've not majored in finance, I would recommend our MS in finance, because you really need all of those foundational skills. And so I think part of it's just kind of looking at what basic skills that you need. And then beyond that, a lot of times people evolve as they take a class. It kind of opens up new pathways for what they'd want to take. So I think our programs with a lot of flexibility leave room for people to kind of grow and evolve.
Got it. In terms of any of your programs and part of a wider prestigious business school, I mean, at Anderson, Leanna, you now have 600 graduates that have come through the MFE program. How how does it make a difference to their experience that they're also part of this wider Anderson community, and the different sort of opportunities and even, the interaction that they have with the rest of the school?
Right. So I think that's a very good differentiator of our program to others. We are one of the few quant finance programs housed within a business school, and a top-notch business school, if I may say.
You definitely should.
Right. This gives our students a distinct advantage of having regular direct access to top industry professionals in quant finance. We've also got a very strong advisory board that come from industry. And we work very closely with the Fink Center for Finance and Investments. And we are able to provide our students the opportunity to become quant finance fellows. And so they are paired with, quantitative finance industry professionals. And this year we're super excited because some of our alums are finally able to participate as a industry professional. So they're being paired with our current students.
Right.
Access to the business school provides them with the soft skills training. We are focused on infusing like leadership, presentation, communication. All of those things are so important in addition to networking across our MFE alumni network, but also across Anderson. And so we're able to draw from a very deep well of contacts and networks within our program and at Anderson. And, right now our alumni network is approximately 42,000 strong. So, we have a lot to offer our students.
Right. Well, I guess, Brock, your program director is himself a CASE alum, and that sort of loyalty, but it does create opportunities. You might be focused on fintech or biz analytics, but from your perspective, being part of that wider institution, the dialogues that take place, alumni across the school can really open new doors, new opportunities, new friendships, of course.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then our entire MBA suite of options, the full-time as well as part-time, online, dual degree across, right next door with our School of Law or School of Medicine over here on the Cleveland Clinic campus. And so it's a significant number of alumni that are coming through Weatherhead School of Management that are also connected into professional networks, even beyond the business sector or the business school. And so, it's absolutely critical. In fact, I was chatting with one of our advisory board members for our finance program, who's really helping us put some context and shape this new fintech program. And he works in Amazon, overseeing a significant portion of their financial services outside the United States. And he's an MBA grad, but he is pulling in, individuals and networking and connecting and obviously contributing to our finance program because of the type of work that he's been able to get into and how his time here at Weatherhead moved him, more into that area of finance, and now has made a career in financial services and continues to work with, again, not only Weatherhead, but our School of Engineering, which is enormous, producer of computer science graduates, as well as many other types of electrical, mechanical, bioengineering type of students. And so, that professional network that we have here and plugging it into many other professional networks is critical for the success of our alums.
Right, and a wonderful network to be part of. But I guess at the application stage, Tracy, there's that sense, even that fundamental question, should I specialize? Or, should I stay with, the sort of the broader MBA and could do electives? When you're asked that question, how do you help candidates to sort of reflect on those two options?
Right. So I would say it depends on kind of the stage of life that they're at. So for example, in our Masters of Science in Accounting, we have a professional track, which really appeals to those who have an undergraduate degree in accounting already, and they are choosing to further specialize, right, and get ready for the CPA exam. And And we also have our transitions track, which is, targeted to those that do not have an undergraduate degree in accounting, and that who may be further along in their career and deciding to go back and get a master's, right? So depending on what stage of life they're at, they may be feeling like they'd like to spend an extra year, get a specialized master's, really get more expertise in one subject area. Or they could be, at a position where they have a lot of work experience. And in that case, we sit down with them. We have admissions advisors that talk with prospective students. And we ask them about, what their interests are. Are they looking to be a CFO, right? Or a CIO, or what's what are their career goals? And that really helps them to decide, do I want to go the specialized master's route, or would I rather go one of our MBA programs? And the same thing applies with whether it's our MSBA, our Masters in Business Analytics, our Masters of Finance, our Masters of Accounting, and then of course our MBA programs, our well-established MBA programs. We have really tracks, opportunities at whatever stage of life they're at, and folks that can sit down with them and help them envision where they want to be.
You've also solved for me the question I was thinking a few years ago. What are we going to call the Masters in Business Analytics if the acronym MBA had already been taken? And you've sort of slipped that S in there. So MSBA.
We call it the same thing, MSBA.
Right.
And obviously very personal choices. Nicole, as individuals are thinking about that next step, how do you then facilitate also, I guess, conversations that applicants can have with graduates of the program, alums that were faced with those same choices, perhaps a year or 2 years previously?
Yes, definitely. So we allow any prospective students, once we meet with them, and if they have questions that they really want the perspective of a alumni, of a current student, we try to connect them with those people, because they would obviously be the best ones to know what the courses are like and be able to relate to the prospective students. So we're open to connecting any prospective students with either a current student who's doing the program right now or an alumni who recently graduated to get their perspective.
And what do you personally find in terms of those conversations that you have that really sort of resonates, I guess, with applicants, faced with almost paralyzed with wonderful choice, lots of great options, that typically sort of really is that connector that says, yes, that's why this makes sense for me?
Mm-hmm. I think definitely talking to the current students or alumni and just learning like the nitty gritty of what the program is like as a student, like what type of work are they doing in the classes? What are the career programming that we offer? What kind of coding do they have to do? I think just getting to know like what they're doing on a daily basis really helps the prospective student see if that's the type of program that they want to go to.
Right. You talked earlier, Rebecca, about I guess the sort of the power of Manhattan and the school's location, obviously the connections that then provides the school. But as graduates coming out of the business analytics program, they could work anywhere. Is that something that you also then see in terms of where people explore even beyond New York and taking their qualification?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the MSBA program, it started in, I believe, 2000. I was there when it started, but all of the years are running together. Now, I think it was 2019 that we had our first class, and we're generally a 1 to 2 year program. And so we just now had our first set of graduates. I think a lot of it depends on the undergraduate education. So every candidate, a degree in itself doesn't do any one thing. It's really how you pair that with your experience and your previous education, and then how you're marketing yourself to employers. So we'll have students that come from really interesting, some people that come from healthcare or all different kinds of industries, because every industry, obviously, even the nonprofit sector, every industry needs kind of business minds working within it. So I think it's really broad, the number of things that they go do. They don't just all become, data analysts.
Right. And perish the thought, but is that then sort of reflected, as you say, from healthcare through logistics, obviously finance, there are just so many different options, and that again is something that they can define, I guess, through company outreach and internships as they go through the program.
Yeah, we have a phenomenal graduate career management center, which is the department that works with our students to connect them with jobs and kind of develop the skills to manage their career as a lifelong practice. And so they're amazing. Any student that would ever join would be like hands down best thing ever. So I think that's a good thing to rave about when to the school. But I think the other thing is, whenever I'm talking to students that are trying to decide what initial program that they want or what electives they want, I tell them to read the course description, because if you read those course descriptions, if it's the right program for you, a lot of times it's going to pique your interest. And you should, graduate school should kind of feel like a kid in a candy shop in terms of, I want this class, I've needed to learn this would be really helpful. And if you just think that sounds not interesting at all, then that's a good sign either that the program or the, elective might not be the right fit. Even right now, simultaneously, we have a webinar that it's a mini class, a faculty member is leading on taking the underlying process of taking data from unstructured to structured data. So students are getting kind of a crash course, and they get to join these webinars and think, okay, this is really interesting. I get to hear from actual faculty in our webinars and students, or they will kind of get an idea that maybe another track is better for them.
Right. Now, for some of us that used to think Pythons were limited to San Diego Zoo rather than something that someone would list on their resume, Leanna, I guess you've had over 10 years now of the intake into the program. Perhaps from a more holistic admissions perspective, what do you think are the qualities that really then lead to individuals thriving in the program?
Right. So I would say what we hear repeatedly from employers is the ability to effectively communicate complex ideas and concepts to those who have no such quantitative background. That is probably the most vital point, because most of our students are coming in with a STEM background. So they're coming in already with those quantitative skills that are needed, but they don't always come in with that communication skill. And so since employers are always looking for those who not only have the quant skills, but the ability to explain those concepts in plain English, and because we are in a business school where soft skills are coveted and often a required part of the curricula, we're able to leverage that expertise to the benefit of our students. And I would say probably that's the top soft skill that is required for our students to be successful, apart from, knowing Python and R and even possibly C++ and SQL, all those quantitative and programming skills.
And interesting that balance. Now, if I had bought Bitcoin 8 or 9 years ago, of course, I'd have my tuition fees covered at Case, Brock, right?
If we had all, if only.
if only we'd known. So, but as you launch a new program and drawing on the admissions experience that you have for the Masters in Finance or Biz Analytics at Case, how does that then help you to define the sort of, again, the qualities, as Leanna said, there might be certain hard skills, but matching those with the soft skills that will make a great member of your classroom?
Yeah, as we looked at the FinTech, kind of the profile, here's the curriculum, here's what we know employers are demanding. Knowing that we have students for 30 credit hours, for 2 or 3 semesters, what does that intake profile look like so that they're positioned well to successfully complete those 30 credit hours with an internship in the middle of that, in select industries or in certain professional areas that they want to pursue, so that they can enter that sector. And what's fascinating is, as we've heard from a number of our alums that are helping shape, this program, a significant number of them said they have to be innovative and entrepreneurial, because right now, so much of FinTech is being developed by startups. and they come in, they pop up, they solve particular problems, and then they, sell that application off, make their Bitcoin, billions, and then they move on to the next problem. And so, seeing that there are some essential quantitative programming, statistics, the calculus, that quantitative and programming background that is absolutely foundational to be able to take the best of, finance knowledge and the fintech or the technology side and the applications, so that they can take that into the problem solving that's necessary, whether they're going into a bank or into a startup. They have to be able to have those skill sets, both the hard and the soft skill sets, to be able to apply toward some pretty complex problems that are facing a number of different industries.
And so when you think about sort of innovative entrepreneurial mindsets, what might then sort of catch your eye on a resume that says, that's the sort of mindset that we're looking at?
Yeah. There's a number of different things you kind of dig into in the resume, in those other related experiences, that the student had. And many of our students are coming right out of undergraduate. And so it's like, did they have the opportunity to pursue an internship or maybe a part-time job? Or, were they part of any type of a club or an organization within the institution, or maybe even outside of the institution, something that they got involved with that demonstrates that they are pursuing, that they're looking for connections, that they're looking for opportunities. Because that inquisitive mind, and then exploring, taking that, those questions and then exploring possible answers, that's really some foundational skill sets, to being entrepreneurial in solving any type of problems.
Right. Tracy, you'd mentioned storytelling, because I guess, we swim in data, but it's being able to join those dots, or actually then sort of translate and make sense of that in a, C-suite presentation you might be making. So how do you look for storytelling? Is that something that can emerge in an interview when you meet a candidate?
Yeah, it can emerge a little bit in the resume, the cover letter, right? Their personal statement, I should say. It really tends to shine through there. And then we do have information sessions where we'll bring in current students, alums from our program, and prospective students have an opportunity to interact with our admissions counselors and folks that have experience with the program. And so through a combination, right, of their kind of application that they submit, the writing that occurs in their personal statement and interviews, we're able to really get a feel for what a student might bring to our cohort. And our MSBA program is exciting because it ranges from students who have a background, say, in engineering, to psychology, to sociology, to business. And we see great benefits from a cohort with that kind of diverse background. Everyone learns from one another. Everyone has certain strengths and excels in certain parts of the curriculum. So bringing that all together is quite amazing to watch. And as they go through our Office of Career Success and they get their one-on-one career coaching, and they're able to see that career opportunity that best suits them, that's really where the metamorphosis occurs, right? And you see the sparkle that you saw from the beginning really come to life, and they land that fantastic job and have a great experience in the process.
Yeah, it must be incredibly rewarding to watch that journey from when you first see them apply, and then the sort of the butterfly that emerges. Nicole, sometimes sharing average GMAT or GRE scores or average GPA can almost be reductive, because it convinces everyone, well, unless I have that score, you're not going to look at me. How do you like to sort of reassure applicants of looking at more things, or even boot camps or sort of pre-course work that they could do that shows the motivation beyond a standardized test score?
Yes, exactly. So we look at the applications holistically. So we're not looking at one specific thing as being the most important, or like, if you don't have this GRE score, we're going to throw your application in the trash. It's not like that at all. If you feel you're weaker in one area, I wouldn't be intimidated by that and decide not to apply. Like, I always recommend that students should just try, because you might be weaker in one area, but very strong in another, and it can definitely balance out. We look at every single part of the application, and we also do interviews as well, which is a great way for students to stand out. They might be able to explain why they didn't do well in a certain class. So that's really helpful. And I always recommend students, if you're interested in the program, if you think that this is the right program for you, please apply. You know, we're going to look at your application fairly and holistically.
Right, and as you say, you know, there's no one thing that that will sort of sink that application. You really are looking for those, you know, varying different qualities that would really emerge, and you know, trusting you and your colleagues, you know what really will help a person to shine in the program. Rebecca, as we think about you know, pandemic that has created travel restrictions, you know, getting visas had been an issue. Hopefully, you know, we're now moving beyond some of those challenges. How does you see that sort of impacting international demand for the programs at Zicklin, including the MSBA? Because there must be, you know, very, very strong demand from the rest of the world.
So for our first semester, for the first semester of the pandemic, we definitely had less international students, not significantly less, but we had less. And most of that is just because visas were not approved and processed. We had tons of embassies that were closed, people that couldn't get their interviews, processing delays all over the place, banks that are not able to show financial, you know, statement support. So I think what's interesting is that our class is balancing out to what it usually has been, but it's coming from defers, coming from a previous semester. So our applicants for that given semester are not necessarily all, they're basically, I would say feels like half, but it's probably less than that, are just deferring to the next semester. They get in if they can get their visa approved quickly, but they are going into it understanding I might get started next semester and, you know, get a head start on that. The other thing I would mention about the admissions criteria that I think just for candidates to understand the admissions perspective is that I'm sure everybody here knows that whenever we look at applicants, there are applicants that are great, that are just going to be add something, we can see immediately what they'd add to the table. But I think a lot of our job is also seeing the potential in people and understanding exactly, yes, they need this program and this would round them out in this way. And they maybe with communicate, I think with our STEM programs, like our quantitative programs, sometimes we have a lot of engineers and people that are not really strong at telling their story or their essays. And so we look for those qualities about, you know, the effort that they put into their application and some of those different things that would point to that, you know, this program will be exactly what they need to get up to that level to really shine. And so I think you don't have to be the candidate that's going to be perfect as you apply. They're going to be, it's going to be a two-way street to, are we the right school to help you, you know, leave the program exactly the kind of candidate for a job.
Yeah, I mean, if they already had all the answers, they wouldn't need the program, right?
Yeah.
So you talk about sort of rounding out the candidate, and you know, anyone that graduates from any one of your different programs, the skills that they will develop. If I was to sit down with 600 graduates of the MFE, Liana, they wouldn't speak with one voice, but what might be a sort of a common theme that emerges beyond perhaps what they've learned in the classroom, of just how they feel that they've sort of personally grown and developed, you know, through the time that they've spent at Anderson?
Yes, so thank you for that question. We actually just had a conversation with an alum last week in which he said he thrived during the program and has thrived post MFE as well, and would do it all over again given the chance. So, you know, that kind of feedback is very good for us to hear. But I would say, you know, without a doubt, the number one response has been from alumni. They constantly tell us the opportunity to learn in the classroom with UCLA Anderson's world-renowned finance faculty has been their top, it's the top of the list. So, you know, UCLA Anderson faculty have developed groundbreaking financial models. Our students are, you know, in the winter quarter, they get to take a course from one of the professors that created the Longstaff-Schwartz model, which is a model that is still used on Wall Street today. So, you know, they're in classes with some of the greatest finance minds, and that is usually the top highlight of you know, when we survey them, that's the number one. So I would say, you know, being able to learn in the classroom, and also, you know, post MFE, hearing from alums that say, I can't believe it, but I constantly revisit quantitative asset management, or I constantly revisit, you know, what I learned in computational methods in finance, or, you know, data analytics and machine learning. So I think that is probably one of the number one highlights.
Yeah, no, it's lovely to hear that sort of passion and enthusiasm, and from, you know, revisiting something they've learned, or, you know, being in a classroom with world-class faculty. Baruch, you know, if someone said to us, oh, but, you know, couldn't I just take a couple of Coursera programs? I mean, Netflix is going to move beyond South Korean Squid Games, and I'll be able to, you know, find out about crypto. Well, why does it make such a difference to take that step and really engage and do the masters?
Yeah, and that's something, you know, as Rebecca was talking about the visa issues, you know, that students were facing, and oh, my heart went out to them as they would relay stories of, you know, canceled appointments, or really inability to even get appointments, and some of them even facing travel circumstances, and the constant, like, you know, the constant push on them, or this draw, I should say, was that internal motivation that they had to be here. And that creates that learning environment. You know, they're going to pick up Coursera skills or stuff just to gain some knowledge, or maybe get some skills in a particular type of programming or something to that effect. But it's bringing together the minds of individuals to be able to sit down, you know, mask to mask, eye to eye, and be able to talk through, you know, real world application problems that are being presented by faculty, you know, in these classes, bringing in then alums, you know, from local or even, you know, global industries that are coming in to be able to say, all right, folks, here's the issue we're facing. This is, you know, here in central or in Northeast Ohio, you know, at the center of, you know, some of the busiest lake, rail, and over the road transportation. We got a logistics issue here. And so how do we solve this? You know, what is something that we do to be able to move this supply chain forward to get, you know, these great products that people are ordering but can't seem to get on the shelves of their local stores? And so, you know, those are the types of scenarios that can be created when you are in a place for a very short, concentrated point of time, in order to have that experience, as well as then begin to make those professional connections.
Right. If my 8-year-old asks why there are no gifts under the tree a couple of months from now, I'll say, well, they're stuck in Northeast
supply chain. They're on a boat
Right.
off of the coast of Los Angeles. I think Nicole or Leanna need to help us out.
That's
there.
right. Yeah, we're
in.
going to put it in UCLA's court.
That's right.
But, I mean, Tracy, it's also this idea, because we're talking about such, you know, exciting career opportunities, and some people that have said, oh, you know, I've missed the boat on this one, but they haven't. I mean, with Isenberg, you know, people that can, you know, really re-engineer their career and make that transition, because I mean, you have lots of sort of flexible options of you know, when a person can start their studies.
We really do. We, you know, the MSA program has the professional versus the transitions track. That program is also fully available in person and fully available online. So if you look across our 3 specialized master's programs, we have about 470 students. And I would say about 30–40% are in person. And the others are online, because it fits better with where they are in their life. That flexibility comes into play too, say, you know, with our MSBA program, if they would like to be in person for 3 classes and online for 1, so that they can have an internship on the side, right? We have that flexibility for them. And our faculty really are outstanding. I mean, all the schools here, we have outstanding faculty. But I would say with our MF program, our Masters of Finance program, we have a real specialization in asset management and alternative investments. And our faculty actually developed the certification in that space. So, we have a unique offering. Our accounting program is accredited both in business and accounting. One of only, 1% of the schools are accredited in both spaces. So we have a high quality offering, a lot of flexibility, outstanding faculty, and between our academic admissions and career advisors, I'd say our students feel like they've got support in all areas, regardless of the mode in which they want to tackle their degree.
Right, with asset management, as we think about investing, Nicole, just as we sort of wrap up today's session, just that bigger picture of anyone considering going back to continue their studies, back to business school and next steps. How do you look at that after 18 months of so much uncertainty in people's lives? Are you even more convinced today that the best investment that you can make is in yourself and just what an education has to offer?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So I think one of the things that I've noticed, now we're back to campus at UCLA, and the students have just been so excited to be on campus, to be able to meet each other in person. So I think that is something that is really important. And like you were saying, it's not just taking something on Coursera, but really experiencing graduate school. So one of the things that has been great is the students, we have students coming from all over the world. It's their first time in Los Angeles. They're getting to meet other students. We have a lot of career events, networking events that they can go to, and just learning not only from the renowned faculty, but also from each other, because in one country, they may teach economics differently than another country. And these connections that they're building at UCLA will be helpful even after they graduate. They'll know people, from Beijing, from Sydney, from London. So they're able to build those connections, and who knows, how that will prosper in the future.
Yeah, no, I can absolutely imagine. And of course, with what you were describing, Rebecca, of all of those deferrals through last year, they still showed up. They really wanted to be there. So perhaps just a final word for today's webinar, and maybe speaking in a sense for all of the schools. Next steps, how can they reach out, connect with you, your team, students and alum? What would you sort of recommend, Rebecca?
Yeah, so we have a page on our website called Connect With Us. So if you just look up Zicklin Connect With Us, you'll probably find the page. But on that page, we have a link to our webinars that you can always join a webinar about our MS programs, and we break them up. So you can join one about just finance, financial risk management. We have faculty and students, or just, our data science programs. We have one-on-one appointments that you can schedule. Like a lot of individuals here, we've got those conversations that we have usually over Zoom with students about, what they're looking for. And then we've got our mini classes and live chats that are every Wednesday that they can come in and just pop in and ask some questions. So we have lots of opportunities. And I would just encourage students or applicants to remember that grad school, a lot of us believe that it should be personally and professionally rewarding. And a lot of our students do find that they grew as a person. And, we have a lot of people that are working full-time jobs while going to school. All of our programs are self-paced and primarily in the evening so that we can offer more class options to more people. And what a lot of them have found is that, they thought that they would be more drained than ever by being in school and working and then trying to take care of themselves. And they just thought, I'm going to have nothing to give. And I hear this over and over again that adding in graduate school really re-energizes their work and gives them a fresh get up, over what they're doing. They're applying things at work that they're learning in class, and they're applying things in class that they're learning at work. And so I think it's just important to remember that you're not just going to be depleting yourself, but really it's an enriching experience that should, help you grow, in all of the dimensions, let's say.
Right. Well, energizing and enriching would be a great way to define just the level of enthusiasm, conviction that all five of you bring. Of course, your graduates are in this journey that leads to these wonderful career outcomes, but clearly how much you care that they're making the right choices for them to gain that sort of energy on this exciting next step. So Liana, Brock, Nicole, Tracy, and Rebecca, thank you for joining at Center Court. And obviously, with that invitation to reach out to you and your colleagues, there are so many great programs that you offer and to be really excited by. So thank you for a wonderful session together.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.